I consider myself blessed and privileged to participate in this summit. I thank the Pontifical Academy of Sciences for extending the invitation to me. I thank the leadership of the International Association of Women Judges, and I also thank my senior colleague, Justice Binta Nyako, for facilitating the process that made it possible for me to be here. My paper dwells on the legislative framework to combat human trafficking in Nigeria, dealt with to some extent by my Lord Justice Ogun Miju of the Court of Appeal, Nigeria. I talk on the ending the scourge of human trafficking and allied crimes in Nigeria. Human trafficking in Nigeria has remained a major security and human rights challenge in Nigeria. The country is a major source, transit, and trafficking, and destination for women and children subjected to forced labor and sex trafficking. Conscripted mostly from rural areas or poor families, Nigerian trafficking victims comprise largely of women and girls used for domestic servitude and enforced prostitution, and male minors subjected to forced labor, street vending, and such other slavish occupations. Women and children are trafficked from Nigeria to other Western, Central, and Northern African countries, as well as to South Africa, where they are subjected to various forms of human exploitation. Other destinations for Nigerian women and girls who are victims of trafficking include different parts of Europe, Middle East, and Central Asia, where they are held captive in the commercial sex industry or for forced labor. Creation of the NAPTIP. The National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, was created on 14 July 2003 by the Trafficking in Persons Prohibition Enforcement and Administration Act 2003 as response to checkmate the ugly scourge of trafficking in persons in Nigeria. It is a fulfillment of the country's international obligation under the Trafficking in Persons Protocol to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking in persons, especially women and children, supplementing the United Nations Transnational Organized Crime Convention. Nigeria became a signatory to the Transnational Organized Crime Convention and this Trafficking in Persons Protocol on 13 December 2000. Article 5 of the Trafficking Protocol enjoins states parties to criminalize practices and conduct that subject human beings to all forms of exploitation, which includes in the minimum sexual and labor exploitation. The Trafficking in Persons Act 2003 was an outcome of a private member bill sponsored at the National Assembly by the Women Trafficking and Child Labor Eradication Foundation, Wardcliffe, a non-governmental organization founded by Mrs. Amina Titu Atiku Abubakar, the wife of the Vice President of Nigeria at that time. The bill was passed by the National Assembly on 7th July 2003 and presidential assent given on 14 July 2003. The law, which is operational throughout the country, created NAPTIP as a specific multidisciplinary crime-fighting agency and the nation's focal institution to fight the scourge of trafficking in persons in the country using the four-pronged approach of prevention, protection, prosecution, and partnership. The Trafficking in Persons Prohibition Law Enforcement and Administration Act 2003 went through an amendment in 2005 in a bid to further strengthen the agency. However, in 2015, as a result of the new trends in the crime of trafficking in persons and the need to further strengthen the institutional framework, the Act was repealed and the Trafficking in Persons Prohibition Enforcement and Administration Act 2015 was enacted. The new Act received the presidential assent on 28 March 2015. The functions of the agency are to enforce and administer the provisions of the Act, coordinate and enforce all other laws on trafficking in persons and related offenses, adopt effective measures for the prevention and eradication of trafficking in persons and related offenses, establish coordinated preventive, regulatory, and investigatory machinery geared towards the eradication of trafficking in persons, investigate all cases of trafficking in persons, including forced labor, child labor, forced prostitution, exploitative labor, and other forms of exploitation, slavery and slavery-like activities, bonded labor, removal of organs, illegal smuggling of migrants, sale and purchase of persons. The agency is to encourage and facilitate the availability and participation of persons who voluntarily consent to assist in investigations or proceedings relating to trafficking in persons and related offenses, and enhance the effectiveness of law enforcement agencies and other partners in the suppression of trafficking in persons. It creates public enlightenment and awareness through seminars, workshops, publications, radio and television programs, and other means aimed at educating the public at the dangers of trafficking in persons. It establishes and maintains communication to facilitate rapid exchange of information concerning offenses under the Act, conduct research, and strengthen effective legal means of international cooperation in suppressing trafficking in persons, implement all bilateral and multilateral treaties and conventions on trafficking in persons adopted by Nigeria, strengthen cooperation and conduct joint operations with relevant law enforcement and security agencies, international authorities, and other relevant partners in the eradication of trafficking in persons, coordinate, supervise, and control the protection, assistance, and rehabilitation of trafficked persons. All functions and activities relating to investigation and prosecution of all offenses connected with or relating to trafficking in persons, adopt measures to identify, trace, freeze, confiscate, or seize proceeds, property, funds, or other assets derived from trafficking in persons or related offenses, conduct research on factors responsible for internal and external trafficking in persons, and initiate programs and strategies aimed at the prevention and elimination of the problem. It facilitates rapid exchange of scientific and technical information concerning or relating to trafficking in persons, collaborates with government bodies both within and outside Nigeria, whose functions are similar to those of the agency in the area of the movement of proceeds or properties derived from trafficking in persons and other related offenses, identities, location, and activity of persons suspected of being involved in trafficking in persons and other related offenses, exchange of personnel and other experts, establish and maintain a system for monitoring trans-border activities relating to trafficking in persons in order to identify suspicious movements and persons involved, deal with matters connected with the eradication and deportation of persons involved in trafficking in persons, and other mutual legal assistance between Nigeria and any other country in trafficking in persons, subject to the supervision of the minister. Initiate, develop, and improve special training programs for personnel of the agency and relevant law enforcement agents charged with the responsibility of detecting offenses created under the Act, and it carries out other activities as are necessary for the efficient discharge of functions conferred on it under the Act. The agency has the power to investigate whether any person, body, or entity has committed an offense under the Act or the offense of trafficking under any other law, enter into any premises, property, or conveyance for the purpose of conducting searches in furtherance of its functions under the Act and under any other law, arrest, detain, and prosecute offenders under the Act and any other law on trafficking in persons in Nigeria, trace, seize, detain, or retain the custody for the purpose of investigation and prosecution of any property which the agency reasonably believes to have been involved in or used in the commission of offenses under the Act or any other law, seal up premises upon reasonable suspicion of such premises being involved with or used in connection with offenses under the Act, and seek and receive information from any person, authority, corporation, or company without hindrance in respect of the enforcement of any provision of the Act. The Act criminalizes and prohibits the acts of trafficking in persons, importation and exportation of persons, procurement of persons for sexual exploitation, abuse, procurement and recruitment of persons under 18 years for prostitution or other form of sexual exploitation, procurement or recruitment of persons under the age of 18 years for pornography or brothel, among other offenses. Trafficking in persons criminalizes all forms, all manner of trafficking, and prescribes a minimum penalty of 5 years imprisonment and a minimum fine of 1 million naira for sex and labor trafficking offenses. Where the offense of sex trafficking involves a child, the minimum penalty increases to 7 years imprisonment. The punishment imposed by the Act for trafficking offenses are no doubt stringent enough. However, ineffective enforcement continue to hamper full realization of the objectives of the Act. Paucity of resources and jurisdictional bottlenecks also continue to impede the full enforcement of the law. According to NAPTIP, in 2017, the agency recorded 654 investigations, 24 prosecutions, 23 convictions for trafficking offenses. Most of the convictions recorded were predicated on prosecutions under the new 2015 Act. Prison sentences upon conviction ranged from 18 months to 14 years imprisonment. Of the 23 convictions, 23 resulted in imprisonment without the option of paying a fine. Efforts by Nigerian government to protect citizens from falling victims of trafficking yielded positive results, with identification of about 1,128 potential trafficking victims in the current year. NAPTIP maintains 9 shelters for trafficking victims with capacity for over 300 persons. Through robust awareness-raising campaign, NAPTIP has endeavored to educate the public about the dangers of human trafficking and the modus operandi of human traffickers. In conclusion, human trafficking is a profound social-legal challenge which thrives mainly in poverty-afflicted societies. A critical strategy for curbing the menace of trafficking in persons is by giving new economic hope to the hopeless victims or potential victims who invariably believe that they have no alternative for survival than to succumb to the pressure and compulsion of enforced prostitution in Nigeria. The legal regime in Nigeria against trafficking in persons is quite comprehensive. However, the law can only attain limited effectiveness except government decisively deals with the nagging problem of corruption that has aggravated human suffering in the country and thrown many, especially the most vulnerable of society, that is the women and children, into a situation of desperate hopelessness, thus becoming very easy prey for human trafficking syndicates. Thank you.